Most historians claim that during World War II, German soldiers enjoyed having the best helmets of the conflict. They were sturdy, comfortable, and relatively lightweight. If we take a close look at photos of German tank crews, we'll notice something interesting. Apparently, the advanced German helmets were not used in the Panzers, nor was any similar type of helmet, which is extremely strange. Other nations like the United States, the United Kingdom, and the Soviet Union encouraged their tank crews to wear special helmets for their tanks. However, the Germans were the exception, using different types of caps. I'll tell you right now that the reason for this goes beyond logistics, and it was simply a way to maintain style and practicality inside the tank. Well, to talk about this, we have to talk a bit about the history of the standard uniforms of German tank crews. That way, we can find the answer to this strange peculiarity. So you'd better get comfortable and welcome to Guns Club. To begin with, why use a helmet inside a tank? Is shrapnel protection necessary inside a 40-ton steel box? Well, not really. The protection these helmets provide is actually against impacts. Tanks, especially during World War II, had a lot of sharp and dangerous edges. Inside the crew compartment, there are periscopes, levers, sights, and mechanisms that, with a sudden movement, you could hit your head on and injure yourself. What about a driver, gunner, or commander? That's why these helmets were and still are vital, both back then and today. But if they're so important, why didn't the Germans require them? Well, according to Vinny Internet, some people think that the Germans didn't use helmets in their tanks because they thought the Soviets had roads as good as theirs. However, the answer goes much further, as we always see on this channel. To find out why, we need to review what the German tank crews used before and during the conflict. When the Third Reich came to power, Germany began to rearm, and this led to the creation of new armored vehicles at first. These were the Panzerkampfwagen Wiesen II. These were basically tankettes, being very small and intricate. With these tanks, the Germans realized the need to protect the crews' heads inside the tanks, and that's how this cap was born, the Schutzmutz, also known as the beret, which at first glance was a black beret, but it concealed a rather robust head protection. Inside, it was a thick rubber helmet, capable of withstanding heavy blows. In addition, it had, of course, some padded and leather areas for the user's comfort. On the outside, this whole set was covered with a very elegant black wool. Its purpose was simple: to protect the user's head, but without sacrificing the style of a German officer's uniform. These berets were used in the Panzer WWII, 2nd and 2nd I, but still, almost no one remembers them. And this was because when the invasion of Poland began, they realized there was a serious problem in the Blitzkrieg. Communication was vital and operations were carried out with a high degree of coordination. So the commander always had to have his headphones on to send and receive orders. The Schutzmutz was too bulky to be used with the headphones. It was a rather sturdy cap, so it couldn't be deformed to fit the size of the headphones. German headphones were quite large and not very friendly with any kind of hat. As a little fun fact, I should add that if you're wondering how tankers managed to talk to other tankers with all the noise inside a tank and during combat, well, they did, thanks to this special device, a laryngophone, which detected the vibrations of the vocal cords and converted them into sound. No microphones means no noise. Many tank crew members simply did without their beret during the invasion and started wearing the regular army cap with their black uniforms temporarily. Because of all this, a change was necessary. In 1940, the Schutzmutz and the use of non-specialized caps for the Panzer divisions were banned. From then on, two different models were used depending on your preference or position: the iconic Panzer Feldmutz, or literally Panzer field cap, for those who were not officers, or for officers who preferred to be comfortable inside the tank, or the Schermutz, for those officers and non-commissioned officers who like to maintain style and elegance on the battlefield. Both caps were optimized for headphone use. Finally, in 1943, the definitive Panzer cap was introduced, the Einheim's Feldmutz M43, the widespread model that was most used throughout the conflict. But all these caps were definitely not immune to blows. They were just made of fabric. And that's how they solved the problem of head injuries inside the tanks. in a very simple way. The Germans identified the areas where it was common to hit your head and patted them, thus minimizing head injury from blows, and the headphones could be used with any type of cap, keeping the uniform style intact. This last point was extremely important for the Germans. The Soviets came up with another solution, much more avant-garde. As we mentioned earlier, they used the TSH-4, which became the standard helmet for Soviet tank crews. This small change has been used from 1931 to the present day. It was padded, offered little protection from shrapnel, but fully protected against impacts. And for the headphones, it had special cavities and ergonomic headphones to be used together with the helmet. The Americans came up with a similar solution. They had the tank helmet M1938, a helmet that provided impact protection and also had a mount for headphones. Maybe it was a less advanced solution than the Soviet one, but it was still very effective. When you left the tank, you could wear the M1 helmet over the tank helmet. It was a clever idea. When the Germans moved from smaller tanks like early Panzers to larger ones such as the Tiger 110, Tiger II, and Panzer V Panther, the tank crews' heads no longer needed such careful protection. But all of that raises another question. Why did the Germans never make helmets with integrated headphones like the Soviets and the Americans? Simple. The German tank industry was much younger than those of all the world's major powers. Before World War II, development essentially started with the arrival of the Third Reich. Tank-to-tank communications were invented. The Soviets still didn't use helmets inside the tanks, and when these helmets were developed, they had to be adapted for the use of headphones. For the Germans, it was the opposite. Helmets were developed first, then headphones. Another factor that influenced this different paradigm was that they preferred to maintain the good style of a uniform rather than create a comfortable but ugly helmet. German things, however, in my opinion, the German paradigm regarding clothing and protection inside the tank was definitely the best. Not only did you keep your tank crew in comfortable and cozy uniforms, but by padding parts of the inside of the tank, you made them friendlier and, at the very least, positively affected the crew's morale. In the video you have in the center of the screen, you'll see the strangest curiosities about the Maschinenpistole 40. I recommend it to you. Thank you for watching this video, and goodbye.